Dear chess friends, welcome to your Out of Chess channel and welcome to a spectacular gameplay by the latest version of Stockfish, the brutal Stockfish 16. Today we see the fish battling it out against another top engine Berserk in one of the most aggressive lines against the Sicilian. Today we see the fish playing the so-called Richter Rauzer attack against the Sicilian defense. And the Richter Rauzer attack is very often played with many great attacking opportunities for white and for black. But in this game you witness really a nice attacking motif, a nice attacking theme, really a beautiful pattern that you could apply also in your own games. This pattern, this motif has been applied also in one spectacular game back from 1995 between Vichy Anand against Garry Kasparov, where Anand almost destroyed Garry Kasparov in the most spectacular way. I think in the next couple of weeks I'm going to cover that game too, because it was really epic. So pay good attention. We're following first the game Anand Kasparov, but then of course we'll see the fish changing the direction a little bit in the game. Pay good attention. This is now very a beautiful attack in the Richter Rauzer variation of the Sicilian defense. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces. The fish opened with the move e4. We have c5 by Berserk, the Sicilian defense. We have now the modern variations, and after a couple more moves we are now in this 4 knights variation. All of the 4 knights are now out, and the best concept, the best idea is here to proceed maybe with bishop to b5 or maybe also with bishop to g5. Now comes the so-called Richter Rauzer attack here by the fish. The idea is clear. We want to get rid of the knight on f6, doubling up simply the pawn structure on the f-file, creating some structural weaknesses, maybe also some light score weaknesses in the position, creating also certain bad bishop strategy, because then the bishop is a little bit paralyzed by its own pawn. So if black doesn't react correctly, I think the normal choice is simply to get rid of the knight and simply go for a positional game. After bishop to g5, we have e6, not allowing that, connecting the queen now to the knight. Queen to d2, preparing of course queenside castling, and now we have bishop to e7. Bishop to e7 and a6 are, I think, the most normal ideas here for black. After bishop to e7, Stockfish continues with queenside castling, and the problem here for black is that you cannot kick away this bishop immediately before castling. At least look at this. If you play h6, then it's a complicated line. After bishop h6, we simply again get rid of the knight. After bishop to f6, we get rid also of the knight on c6, and now after a couple more moves we simply pick up the pawn on d6. Nothing spectacular of course, but this is a line I think that black should try to avoid. Of course black will also pick up now the knight on c3, will double up your pawn structure, but still black has to protect the pawn on c6 with the move bishop to d7. We get our bishop on a6, we get then also this other rook on d1. So slowly but surely I think white will still build a beautiful formation. Has also an extra pawn, although the pawns on the c file are doubled, but in a potential endgame I think here white should be much better. So this is not working I think here for black to play the move h6. I think it's a common mistake also that black is making in an early stage of the game. So after move queenside castling, that's why Berserk played now kingside castling. We have now the most aggressive approach with this f4 move. Knight takes d4, queen takes d4. Knight takes d4 is also a very common line by black, simply decoying the queen a little bit to the center, because black has some ideas with queen to a5 and e5 to hit the center and get an extra tempo against the queen. So this is also a certain defensive system here by black to somehow get the queen also then away from the center. We have h6 here by the Berserk chess engine. Now maybe capturing the knight on f6 would be risky again for white. Now this whole concept to go for the d6 pawn is not working, that we have seen now previously, because after bishop to f6, okay, you can pick up now here the pawn on d6, but black doesn't have to trade off the queens now. Black can go aggressively into the game with queen to a5. Now we have to lock here the long diagonal of the dark square bishop with this move, and now we simply play a counterattack. Now we play something like this, we trade it off, and it's a different story. Now the bishops are still in the game. Black has gained a decent activity with the bishop pair, will eventually play bishop to d7 and also provoked now here an isolated pawn, maybe here also some weaknesses on this side of the board. This pawn is weak through the whole game, so I think from this point on black should be even slightly better. So you see, sometimes bishop takes f6 is working, sometimes bishop takes f6 is not working, so you should really be careful also what you're doing with the white pieces. After move h6 here comes this beautiful pattern that I've talked about in the beginning. Now we're following a little bit here the game Anand versus Kasparov back from 1995, in in which Anand pulled off also a beautiful, sharp, aggressive method with move h4. This is really common attacking motif, because if you play here immediately h takes g5, here, believe me or not, Garry Kasparov pulled off immediately h takes g5. This is not good. But we'll talk about this game, maybe, as I said, in the next couple of weeks. I will cover this game for sure. But believe me or not, Garry took the pawn here and allowed Anand here to go aggressively into the game. Garry played this defensive method. Bishop to e2 was played e5. So Garry calculated everything could be fine. But now, after a couple more moves, Vishy Anand played a beautiful queen and rook battery on the h file. Also threatened checkmate immediately. So you see, this attack is very, very dangerous. The engine gives here almost a +2 evaluation in white's favor. I'm not going to talk about the result of this game, because, as I said, we will cover this game for sure. But this is risky what black is doing. So you see, this whole concept after move h4 is not allowing immediately here black to take out now the bishop on g5. This is not a good line. I'm really serious here. So after move h4, that Stockfish played, Berserk played simply around, played now queen to a5, with the idea, as we have also said, with the defensive approach to hit the center with the move e5. Stockfish plays a beautiful queen to e3. This is the way to go. It's not allowing e5 immediately. If you play e5, then we simply pass through with f5. We'll simply get another attacker into the game. And now in some lines there are also some threats of bishop takes hx followed with queen to hx. Again, if you play something like this, then again the h file gets open, and I think black is simply destroyed. So always be careful. Sometimes maybe taking the bishop is working, sometimes it's not, but it's really, very critical position of this Richter Rauzer attack. So after move queen to e3, Stockfish prevents, as we have said, the move e5 here by black. In the game, we have rook to d8 by Berserk. We have bishop to d3, normal development, also putting more pressure here on light squares. If something gets cleared on the h file, then the rook and the bishop are playing very, very important roles here around the square h7. We have bishop to d7 by Berserk, normal development, king to b1, improving the position of the king, queen to b6, and now queen to e2. The attacker doesn't want, of course, to trade off the pieces of the board. The attacker keeps the pieces on the board. And now comes maybe one of the critical moments of this particular game. What should black do? Black doesn't have so many options here. Black is simply cramped a little bit by the pieces. That's why I never liked also to play this chevening structures, also sometimes the knight of Sicilian, because sometimes I had a tough time where to go with my bishop here. One of the options that you could play now from black's perspective is to go here from this move with this move rook from a to c8. This could be maybe a playable line, but still it gets very complicated. Look at this. White would have continued. This wasn't played in the game. In the game here, instead of this move, rook from a to c8, king to f8 was played. But let's see now what happens if rook from a to c8 happens. There are, of course, some threats even with rook to c3. Now then e5 would simply happen. Look at this here. We play d takes e5. Now we pick up now this one. Maybe you can also pick up now this one. And maybe even black can put more pressure with bishop to a3. But now look at this. With b3, if you play something like rook to c3, this wouldn't be good. We simply get rid of this knight, and then we play queen to h5 and deliver checkmate. So this is not working. What you could do, and this could be the only defensive move for black, is to play knight to d5. This could be maybe a little bit better, but still it's very, very risky. Look at this. Knight takes d5, e takes d5. Now the queen is coming into the game. You're trying to escape. We get this rook into the game. Black has to now defend his position with bishop to e6, but now the fun starts. Although black is up a whole piece, white can even sacrifice the rook here. Really, really crazy position. You have to now take. We play this other rook into the game. You have to cover. Now we play g6. Really, really crazy position. Now we have to step back. We deliver a check. We have here some option. Now we can even pick up the rook. So that's why when we deliver this this check, you have to play here bishop to f8. You have to cover yourself. But now we can pick up finally the piece. Get also again the queen into the game, still pinning this rook. So everything is pretty much forced here. But I think many of us would, I don't know, from white's or from black's perspective, somehow messes up, because this is really a line that everyone should know. After something like rook to c7, now with this bishop, for instance, is coming to game. Now we trade off the queens, and now we play e6. So we get our rook back, and here white should be slightly better in this scenario, because white is still up a pawn. Of course, you have also several problems here on dark squares, but you can play maybe c4. As I said, this is one brutal line. For instance, still the Stockfish engine in the home suggests that you should play here the move rook from a to c8, at least somehow defending this position. But in the game, instead of rook from a to c8, king to f8 was played by the Berserk chess engine, and Stockfish is saying this is not so good. Stockfish continues now with the brilliant plan f5. Again, what should black do? If you play here e takes f5, then for something like e takes f5 and h takes g5, again with the same idea, again this is always the problem. The knight gets deflected, we play f6, we break and enter, now the rook is coming into the game, and this is a very messy position here for black. The queen is coming into the game, the rook can occupy, of course, the e-file. The e-file is also opened, so there is also no escape route for the king, so the king cannot escape towards the queen side. Sometimes you can escape, although maybe your king side is damaged. Sometimes you can escape, but I don't know, in this particular position I think it's not working. So that's why after move f5 here, Berserk engine tried h takes g5. Now try to trade off simply the pawn for the bishop, but now after h takes g5, again the knight is hanging. Here Berserk probably calculated that after knight to g8, okay, you can play here the move f6 like we have seen before, and you will play rook to h8, but now at least the e-file is not open, and the Berserk engine probably calculated that it could maybe escape here towards the queen side. So this was maybe this kind of a calculation here by black, but Stockfish plays now the brilliant move f6, and this is, I think, now the most spectacular move of this particular game. Look at this. This move is breaking simply black position. After g takes f6, both of these pieces, the knight on g8 and the bishop on e7, are simply paralyzed by its own pawn, so they cannot develop anywhere. The bishop is also blocked out by the pawn on d6, so these two pieces are out of game. It's almost like black is not playing with them, and now Stockfish plays the beautiful rook to h8. Tries, of course, to include the queen into the game, maybe even deliver check, because you cannot deflect the king from the defense of the knight, and also in some lines maybe even deliver checkmate if black, of course, doesn't react correctly. So again, what should black do? One of the possible lines is to play d5. In the game, f takes g5 was played by Berserk, but let's see now what happens if you play d5. If black would have played here this move, then e5 is again a beautiful break and enter move. You have to, I don't know, play something like bishop to a3 to maybe somehow threaten checkmate, but now look how important it was maybe even to keep, as we have seen before, maybe to somehow get this rook on the c file. At least you're getting maybe rook to c3, at least something. But as I said, after b3, look at this, you can maybe even lock the position with the move f5, but now even g6 is working. We're simply breaking and entering here. F takes g6, now even g4. Look at this. This would be also, I think, an epic continuation. As I said, this wasn't played in the game, but I was really curious what would have happened after move d5. Look at this. g4, you have to play king to f7. Now the queen is coming. We're trying to open the position. Black is trying to escape. Still we're trying to open the position. Now g7, you have to keep the rook on the 8th rank in order to protect now. Now bishop to g6, and I think this is really a messed up game here for black. So this pawn is very dangerous, so it's becoming simply a one-way ticket here in white's favor. So d5 also not working, so that's why here after rook to h8, f takes g5 was now the move that the Berserk engine played, but Stockfish gets simply the rook on the beautiful f file. Now Stockfish is sensing some other problems in black's position. There's now the huge threat, even maybe in some lines, to sacrifice the rook on f7. We have bishop to c6. Now Stockfish sacrifices the rook on g8, king to g8. The queen is coming. You have to now somehow cover the position. If you play here rook to f8 in order to protect the f7 pawn, now this one is coming, e5. Really spectacular move. You cannot play, of course, f5. We'll simply play en passant. Still there are some checkmate threats on h7, or we can even, I don't know, double up here on the h file in also many lines. I think black is simply losing the game. And after queen to h5, so that's why bishop to f6, Stockfish takes, but now at least Berserk can connect the rook to the pawn on f7. When the bishop was here, rook to d7 was never a resource to protect now the pawn, so that's why bishop to f6, now this pawn is protected, but Stockfish simply grabs another pawn and plays a4. Creates, of course, breathing spaces because there are some threats of queen to g1 if the rook is, of course, not covering the f1 square. So far, Stockfish is not allowing some dangerous checks. We have queen to g1 anyway. Stockfish attacks back. We have queen to c5, queen to h4. Stockfish plays again on this beautiful h-file battery. Is threatening now also rook to h8 and to pick up the rook on a8. We have rook from d to d8. We have rook to h7, and now king to d7. Risky move, of course, leaves the pawn on f7 unprotected, but there's nothing that can be done actually here. You can play queen to e5, maybe getting the queen closer to the defense, but now after queen to f2, you have to play again rook to d7, queen to h4. Now we can even push the pawn on g4. In this particular scenario, black's pieces would be simply paralyzed. Look at this. There's no good movement. You can, I don't know, maybe just start to push pawns here with a6, but still with pushing this pawn further. Very well positioned. But then look at this again with pushing the pawn further. Now you have to come cover somehow the 7th rank. Now we play g7, so now we promote. Look at this, rook to f7. The rook is lost here, so again a brutal attack also here, this particular line. So this is not working. After rook to h7, as I said, queen to e5 doesn't bring you anything because still you're so vulnerable around the square f7. So after rook to h7, as I said, the Berserk engine tried to escape. Stockfish takes the pawn. Berserk escapes, but the issue is also here that Berserk never had the opportunity to connect the rooks in a proper way. Still, this rook on a8 is out of game. It's almost like Stockfish is now playing the whole game with up a whole piece, because Stockfish has 2 minor pieces. Black is, of course, only 1 minor piece. Very crazy sacrifices. So queen to e7 here by the fish, threatening, of course, checkmate. We have queen to b6 and now queen to e6 check. King to b8 here was played by Berserk. Even if you cover with bishop to d7, then here there is this possibility. Bishop to b5 is coming. Now knight to d5. Look at this. This is now an attacking flow. Even if you try a6, then this one is working, knight to b6. So nothing in this working here in black's way. So every line that I've analyzed at home is simply losing here for black. So after queen to e6, that's why king to b8. Stockfish now finally pushes the pawn further. Again, g6, rook to g8, knight to d5. After bishop to d5, Stockfish played here an interesting move. Queen to d5 is really working. Stockfish is saying here, I had enough of it. I had great tactics. Now I'm going for a drink. So I'm just kidding. So here after queen to d5, it seems so that maybe this could be defendable with queen to d5, but after e takes d5, this is not working because this bishop is then finally coming to the game. We trade it off. Look at this. After rook to g8, now the king is simply marching. This piece is always stuck to the defense. Now even rook to f8 is working, so in my opinion not a good position, of course, again here for black. So after queen to d5, we have queen to a4. Berserk engine is fighting, but Stockfish simply pushed the pawn further. Is threatening also some tactics here around the square b7. Berserk has to protect. Stockfish pushes the pawn further. Now we have 2 passers here on this side of the board. Queen to b5, Stockfish trades off the queens, pushes now both of these pawns, and here after king to b3, rook to c5, Stockfish played this one, rook to e7, we have the promotion, king to b6, and after rook to a8, in this particular position, the Berserk engine resigns. So great attack here by Berserk. Great attacking theme. I think this motif you have to know really in the Richter Rauzer attack with this move h4. When your opponent is playing the move h6, be careful. You have to know your stuff. As I said, maybe black is hoping to somehow trade off the queens. Queen to e3, we have seen very important move here by the Stockfish, and then afterwards developing simply the pieces, trying, of course, some dangerous attacks on g-file. So great game here, again played by Stockfish 16. So okay, if you want to see more beautiful attacking chess games like this, check out our commented chess games played by computer series. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say? Chess is the best, of course.